Ryan Von VA here, back at it again with another D&D story. This time, we've got one that I don't know if it's going to be kind of frustrating or kind of funny. We'll find out together, everybody. Druid is asked to give up one of his 6 magic items and throws a temper tantrum. Pretty mild compared to most stuff here, but super frustrating nonetheless. Campaign and character classes don't really matter that much. Basically, an adventuring party of 5 and myself were fleeing a crumbling temple before we had gotten a chance to properly loot the place. Some monsters were chasing us, so we were in initiative order. On our way towards the exit, we happened to pass through a large room filled with loot. All of us wanted to grab some stuff, but the first 3 members of the party decided to use their turns, running through the room and spending an action on something else. Come to my turn. I have my paladin use his movement to run to the other end of the loot chamber, then I decide to spend my action casting Detect Magic. 3 things in the room register as magical, and since I don't have movement or an action left, I call out to our 5th party member, the Druid, and point to where the things are and tell him to grab them on his way. His turn. He does just that. Boom. Success. We're all excited. Up to this point in the game, we haven't really received any magic items at all. Or so we thought. More on that later. So this was a big deal for us. Well, we get to wherever we decide to set up camp, and the Druid asks if he can start attuning to the 3 items to learn what they do. Our DM, oh bless him, is clearly trying to encourage him to spread the items out amongst the group. So he tells him that no, he can only attune to 1 per rest. Then he asks the Druid if he would like to give 2 to the other people so we can learn what they all do. Druid goes, "Nope. I want to keep them all for myself and find out what they do first." The rest of us, including the DM, are silent. All of our characters are right there watching him start to attune to this magic sword, and my character especially knows that there are at least 2 other objects. So, in character, I ask him if I can see one of the other items to find out what it does. Again, he goes, "Nope." Now, usually I try not to do anything even remotely PvP. But no one was saying anything, and I was super annoyed that we wouldn't even have some of these items if I hadn't wasted my turn casting Detect Magic and trying to work as a team. And now he's really turning around and trying to keep them all for himself. So I asked the DM if I can make some kind of contested check to try and grab the sword out of the Druid's hands. As soon as I say this, the Druid has a total meltdown. He's literally almost 30, 6-ish years older than the rest of us, and he started throwing a full-on temper tantrum. He starts shouting over the DM at me, "Shut up!" My OOC name out of character. Shut up! They're mine! You can't do that!" That kind of thing for like a minute. Finally, the DM gets a word in and agrees with me and says I can make the check. He's clearly on my side, but as fate would have it, I failed the roll. So the Druid kept all 3 items, learned what they did, never shared them with the group, forgot about them, and literally never used them a single time. I don't even know what the other 2 items were at this point, but I at least knew he got a dope sword. And he doesn't even use swords, and he never gave it to anyone else. After the game, the DM and I talked, and he was feeling the exact same way as me. We just had never had this kind of situation before, and he didn't know what to do, which is fair. But here's the kicker. Remember when I said we hadn't received any magic items in the game up to this point? The DM reminded me that that's not true. We had 3 other magic items. The Druid just took all of them and forgot about every single one. One was a Lantern of Revealing, one was some kind of shape-shifting necklace, and one was a Ring of the Ram that the Druid was allowed to start the game with. So yeah, for a while we had 5 players and 6 magic items, and every single one was in the hands of this one player, and the only one he ever used was the Ring of the Ram. It's been several months since this, and the DM has definitely balanced things out, but every so often we encounter something that looks even remotely valuable, and the Druid jumps at it before the DM even finishes speaking. Thankfully at this point, the entire party is prepared enough to shut him down together and tell him he needs to share. My story with a nightmare DM. After commenting in a different thread about this DM, someone suggested I tell some stories over on this subreddit. Oh, TLDR? DM thinks torturing people is, fun and quirky. Nukes a beloved level 1 PC, erasing them and their memory from existence in session 1, and denies the remaining players the ability to mourn. Our nightmare DM has for many years been a big brother. This person likes to guilt players, push them into situations where they are not comfortable, etc. And they pretty much use the game to play out whatever torture roleplay fantasies they have in their head. The DM doesn't seem to write or prepare anything, just makes everything up, and then always at the end of every session claims, "Oh, we didn't follow their story, and they have to rewrite everything now." Sadly, this is the only other person other than me in the group that ever DMs, so if I want to play, this is my only option. This story takes place a little over 10 years ago, during my group's very first D&D game ever, in the very first session. Our group had 4 players. Me, the rogue, a ranger, a barbarian, and a fighter. All human as well, because the DM banned magic and all non-human races from their fantasy world. All the players had long backstory talks, forging bonds, making up adventures we'd been on beforehand, making friendships, etc. We were all very attached to our characters and our teammates' characters. Cue first session start. The DM tells us that we have been following some bandits for a few days that has been ransacking a nearby farming town. We track them to their camp in a forest, a normal camp, with their horses, cart, and a few barrels they have, and plan our attack thoroughly. Examine all the things, rolling really good in the process, and the DM told us that nothing seems wrong. Weapons were normal, horse was normal, and DM asserted that the barrels contained water. We hide in the trees until they fall asleep, plan to sneak around their cart, and get them fast in their sleep. This is where I knew we were in for a bad time with this DM. Me and the ranger lead the attack by sneaking in, getting like 22 plus on the hide check each. We sneak up to the 2 guys and somehow they spot us. While they're sleeping, they get up and we attack. I land my attack. The ranger rolls their attack and gets a natural 1. The DM was like, roll another d20 for me, another natural 1. The DM says the dagger slips from the ranger's hand into the supposed water barrel. She then asked both me and the ranger to roll a dex save. I get a dirty 20. The ranger gets like a 12, so not bad, but that's not good enough. The DM then goes on to explain how the barrel explodes in a magic light that envelops the camp. I barely avoid it, but the bandits and ranger get caught up in the explosion of blue and white light. Apparently the barrels had some sort of volatile magic stuff, even though magic doesn't exist, that is worth millions of platinum, that these bandits stole from a small farm town. And not only did it kill everyone in the blast, disintegrating everything as if they were hit by an ancient arrow from Zelda Breath of the Wild, it also erased them entirely from existence, past, present, and future. So the ranger's character, whom we all loved, was gone forever, and our characters weren't even allowed to remember them or mourn. And later the DM would give us a spontaneous psychic damage if we ever mentioned them, in or out of character. So in the first 5 minutes of our very first session, this DM dimensionally nukes a level 1 player, sending their ass to the Shadow Realm. The player hung around and just watched for the rest of the game. Then at the end, asked when the ex-ranger can make a new character. The DM then says, "Anyone who dies in my games can never make a new character. Sorry, you're out for good." What a pile of shit. That was the last time I ever saw that person IRL. The DM later said that 20 was the DC to avoid obliteration by the Barrel Bomb 9000 there, which is very rough for a level 1. This was just the start and not even the worst thing I think this DM has done. If people want to hear more stories like this, the whole rest of the campaign was equally as annoying and futile. I don't post on much or at all, so if there's any format changes or anything to be done, I'll try to do it. Well, I hope you don't play with this person ever again, because this DM is a walking, talking shithead. Hey everyone, Brian Von Vier here, checking in after the vid. Make sure you guys got some good food and water in you, and of course, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell on this channel so you can get notified whenever we post or go live. Also, if you want to have more stories in your life, check out our main channel, MrRipper, and make sure to submit some stories to us at r/MrRipper. Links are in the description below. Using a help action, come say hi to me as well, Brian Von VA, on YouTube and Twitch. And I just want to say a special thanks to everybody listening in right now, because I know that we have inspired so many people to play D&D. Just make sure that you play safely, happily, and with the right people. All the love, everybody. Be safe, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.